Welcome back, Insight Squad, and to all my new YouTube viewers, my name is Rafael, and I'd like to welcome you to Coffee Talk with Rafael. So basically what I've been doing is I've been sort of playing around with different type of coffee mugs, and today I got a special one for you. Check this out. Anyone remember the old cartoon back in the early 70s, late 80s? Scooby-Doo, where are you? Check it out. That's real cool, right? And on the other side, we got that. So this will be the coffee mug that I'm going to be using today to go ahead and infuse some coffee for my YouTube channel and discussions. Coffee Talk with Rafael. So as you know, I like to say this thing over and over in each video. Let's see what we got brewed on the coffee pot for today. Follow me this way. Okay, Insight Squad, here we are, back again. I got my setup here, and as you can see, going with the Scooby-Doo coffee mug. And I got some pretty good feedback from the last video about the Folgers Coffee Colombian, so we're going to go ahead and try that once again. And of course, my Keurig little cup here that I have to put all the coffee in and put it in this machine, which is a Keurig. So once again, because I'm holding the camera with one hand, I'm basically going to have to use just one hand to scoop the coffee grinds out. So I'm going to try to do the best I can. I'm going to move this back just a little bit so everybody can see what I'm doing here. Alright, so I'm going to probably do 2 scoops today. You see those nice fresh coffee grinds? Smells good, doesn't it? So I got to put the coffee grinds in this little cup. Alright, let me try something a little different here today. I'm going to turn that way. Alright, I'm going to go back in for another scoop. That's a nice hearty scoop. And all I'm going to do is just dump the coffee grinds in this little cup here without spilling all on the countertop. Okay, I think last video I used about 2.5 cups, but today I think I'm going to use not 2.5 cups, I'm sorry. I used 2.5 spoons the last video, but I'm only going to do about 2 spoons this video because I was literally bouncing off the wall. Alright, I'm going to give that a little pat down there. Okay, and that spoon is going to go back over here. Okay, and I am going to take this lid here and crush it down. Yeah, you hear those coffee grinds crushing, right? This is going to go in here, and in the back here, which I did last video, I already kind of pre-prepped the water, so the water's in there, good to go. All right, and then I'm going to grab my Scooby-Doo mug. Hello there, folks. We're going to get some coffee made. So Scooby-Doo mug is going to go right underneath there. And let me go ahead and get rid of this little thing here. I'm going to dump those leftover coffee grinds back into my little coffee container here and pop that lid. All right. Now, the way this goes is this is called a Keurig machine. So I got my coffee cup filled here, and I got my water, a good amount of water filled here, and I got my Scooby-Doo mug ready to go here. So all I'm going to do is just make a little adjustment here on the coffee cup, and I'm going to pop that little lid down there, and this little light's going to come on. That little blinking light means it's ready to go, ready to rumble as is, or ready to go. And then I'm just going to push this little button here, and that's going to start the process of the coffee being made. So yeah, we'll check back in a few seconds. The coffee is a brewing. Oh, doesn't that smell good? And you can see a little bit of steam coming off of that. Look at that. Mother Nature's finest. Look at that, folks. That's a thing of beauty. That's probably going to give me a little less than half a cup in there. But I cannot wait. All right. I'll check back with you shortly. Okay, Insight Squad. Welcome back. We're at the final part of our coffee making endeavors. All right, I got a little surprise for you today. Today I'm going with the Coffee Mate Zero Sugar French Vanilla Creamer. And I decided to go back with my knife here. The fork worked pretty good last time, but this knife has a little bit more of a clinking noise that I know you guys love to hear. So I'm going to go back with the knife. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm holding the camera with one hand, I'm just going to pour some creamer in my coffee. Not too much because I don't want it too sweet. All All right, let's see if I can get that nice caramelized color. All right, it's much easier when you use the liquid creamer versus using the powder creamer and getting the right consistency and the right color of the coffee. I did mention this in my last video, is that I'll know when I have enough cream in there is when I get that nice kind of light caramel color, and it looks like I got it just about right. Nope, I think I'm gonna stop there. All right, and as always, we got to do our little taste test. So let's see what the taste test tells us. It's a little sweeter for my taste, but I'll work with it. That's pretty good though. All right, let's go have some conversations. We'll check back with you soon. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, and we're back. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get into it for today. I got my nice fresh cup of coffee, Scooby-Doo, and as you always know how I like to start my videos before we get into conversation is I gotta take a sip. I'm getting really, really good at this. And I did mention this in my last video. If you're out there and you're watching this video and you have a cup of coffee in your hand, by all means, be my guest. Go ahead and take a sip with me. I encourage you to do so because I'm going to sip. So you're more than welcome to sip while I'm sipping, and we can just enjoy a sip together. How about that? I'm going to go ahead and do one more. Oh, that's so good. Okay. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get down to business. So for all my returning viewers and for all my new YouTube viewers, a little bit about me. As I mentioned, my name is Rafael, and I am an inspiring writer, poet, and voiceover artist. And what I mean by voiceover artist is I'm inspiring to do the voiceovers or the voices for like the cartoon characters. And like, you hear these commercials sometimes and there's that person talking in the background and their voice is so soothing and elegant. Well, that's what I mean by voiceover artist. So I'm aspiring to do that as well. So poetry, voiceover artist, and writer. In reference to the writing part, that's what I want to get into right now. Basically, my YouTube channel works like this. For all my new YouTube viewers, all my returning viewers, just please be patient and let me explain the process. What I like to do in each video is I basically write a piece of literature, and then I basically read that literature and I share it with my audience. And that's pretty much the basis of my YouTube channel. And I try to cover as many topics as I can and, kind of try to share some advice along the way. So that's the basis of my YouTube channel. And what I wrote for you today is real simple. It's a real simple topic. Ask me, Rafael, about friendships, relationships, and coffee. And I'll do my best, my very best to answer it. But we're going to go ahead and get started into the writing. One more thing that I want to add, which I think is very, very important, and all my returning viewers, you already know this, but just for my new viewers so they can kind of get up to speed, is that the reason why I like to write is because those of you who watched my channel before, you already know the answer. But for all my new viewers, it's real simple. The reason why I like to write, or the reason why I started writing, is because I feel like writing is therapeutic. And what I mean by that is, like we deal with a lot of stress all day long. There's a lot of problems in the world, things that are going on in the world, that we find that might be a little overwhelming at times, and we don't necessarily have an outlet for it. Some of us, we don't really go out much. We like to kind of keep to ourselves. And so I was kind of like that at the beginning, just kind of introverted person, like to keep to myself. And from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you go to bed at night, you deal with so many different things throughout the day, whether it's problems, issues, whatever the situation, right? Anxiety, all kind of things going on in your body and going on in your mind. And you're like, but you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to just sort of explode, right? So that's where, for me, writing comes in. Writing, for me, helps me deal with all those issues. Like somebody might rub me the wrong way during the day, and I don't want to just go off on them and just get real angry and start yelling at them. So for me to be able to deal with those situations and those feelings, writing helps me cope with that, right? And I did mention this in my last video. I feel like writing is therapeutic. If you don't know what that word therapeutic mean, go ahead and look it up on the internet, because everyone kind of have their own meaning behind it. My meaning for therapeutic means that it's kind of like a friend that I can talk to and just kind of get things off my chest. Just imagine me sitting in a room, a dark room, and I'm just kind of just talking to the air about problems that I had or things that I don't like. And then after I'm done with that conversation, I feel better on the inside. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by therapeutic. And writing, it does that for me. I mean, it works different ways for different people. That being said, now let's go ahead and get into the literature that I wrote for my audience today. Insight Squad, spelled INSIGHT. I spelled it right this time. Insight Squad. That is how I reference my audience. Insight, because in addition to you guys being so wonderful, you guys give me a lot of advice and you give me a lot of opinions and you give me a lot of feedback. And to me, that's insightful and I value that. So Insight Squad, that's the name of my audience and I appreciate you. All right, for no further ado, let's go ahead and get into what I wrote today. All right, so basically today's topic is Ask Rafael about relationships, coffee, and friendships. Ask Rafael questions. The way steam rises from a cup, slow, searching, curling towards something unseen. Tell me, why do friendships sometimes fade like the warmth in coffee? He smiles into the quiet as if he's heard this before, for mornings that linger too long. Raphael stirs his thoughts gently. Maybe, he says, we forget to refill each other. I'll let it sit. In love, I ask, watching the dark surface tremble with each small moment of my hand. Why does it feel so certain until it isn't? He leans back, measured like a careful pour referring to coffee, because we make mistakes instantly for understanding. The cafe hums around us, a low choir of lives intersecting without a question. And what about this? I ask, lifting the cup. Well, that's my cue to take another sip. Holding its weight like something fragile. Why does coffee make everything feel almost solvable? Raphael laughs. Soft, unguarded, because it gives you time, he says. Time to sit with the questions instead of running with them. So we sit, two people suspended between answers and silence, between bitterness and warmth. Between bitterness and warmth. I want you to really think about that one. And I'll leave you with this. Between what we know and what we're still brave enough to ask. That is my literature for today, folks. And that is Ask Raphael about relationships, friendships, and coffee. Now, I will add a little bit more in the coffee bit. Okay, there's several types of coffees out there, and I'm not going to mention any brands or anything like that. I did sort of show you what kind of coffee that I use earlier in the video. You guys know that, I use the Folgers coffee, and it's the Brazilian, it's the Colombian version, blah, blah, blah. And what kind of creamer I used today, which was the vanilla, no sugar, blah, 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 coffee mate creamer. But I'll give you kind of a little simplistic, a simplistic way to look at coffee. Okay. Either you like your coffee hot, you like your coffee cold, you like your coffee with creamer, or you like your coffee without creamer. Now, from my experience, most people drink coffee to get more energy, to get a pick-me-up. Maybe you stayed out late last night and you got to be up early, go to work or whatever you got to do. And so you're like, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, or I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee. You make yourself a cup of coffee and instantly you feel energetic and you feel revived, right? From my experience, if you drink coffee with no creamer or no sugar, just as it is, it tends to wake you up a little bit more and give you a little bit more of a gusto amount of energy. Not saying that other coffees don't, but it's just something about drinking coffee with no creamer or no sugar in it that it just seems to just kind of penetrate through your body and just give you more energy to just ready to take on the day. I'll leave you with this. How does this poem or this literature translate to life? That's a great question. Well, I did mention something in this literature, and I said this. And this is the very last part of it. It went like this. And what we're still brave enough to ask. There's an old saying that my grandmother told me. And it goes like this. And you can look this up because there's very different meanings. Because I'm sure that this saying has transcended through very different households and whatnot. There's a lot of different people that used this saying before. But for those of you who've never heard it, I'm going to tell you what it is. Closed mouths don't get fed. Closed mouths don't get fed. If you want something in life, you're going to have to kind of be assertive and go get it. You know, if you want someone to do something, or if you want to suggest something to kind of go in your favor, you're going to have to be brave enough to speak up. You know, let people know. Speak up and kind of, let them know, how you would like for things to be done. Not saying to be rude about it, but that's really what the last part of the literature is basically saying. And what we're still brave enough to ask. Remember that saying, closed mouths don't get fed. All right, Insight Squad, this was a good one today. I appreciate you tuning in. Remember to subscribe and like and share my videos if you feel like it. You're not obligated to. All right, Insight Squad, you're the best. Until next time.